So they made a hell for him. So he died of heart attack, but
Oh, okay.
otherwise, I think they I have not any hereditary serious problems that I know of. But karma, we never know. It's a mystery.
Yes, Fase. Kurniadi sudah direkam ya, Kur?
Ini kayaknya udah, Pak. Udah
Sudah ya.
masuk YouTube. Ya, oke. Dah, silakan. Fase, please continue. We already record this
Okay,
event.
so
I will ask question, Fase.
let us start as usual with questions because we want to understand what was explained before, and we have finished now, as I have explained, this the most philosophically most important part of the treatise, this first part of the third chapter, and
Fase, I
it,
will ask Fase.
it is yes.
Fase, if I read the text, basically, especially about the instruction mostly talking about negative. So no, 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 no. Even when we practice, it suggests us not noticing the breath, the body. So basically,
Yeah.
the instruction is no, no, no. So my question is, we are since we are very young, we have been learning many things. What we have been learned, of course, we will not forget. It is as our memory. But then, in accord with this text, is it correct that I perceive it as we try to train ourselves to unlearn what.
Yes, let me.
So I will say again, what we have been learning, we will not forget. This is of our memory. But is it correct that the instruction is we will try to train ourselves to unlearn, basically to unlearn our reactivity, not the memory. Of course, the memory is still intact since
Yes.
we are a healthy human being, so the memory will be still intact. I know this is Agus, etc. I know it is a desk, it is a laptop. I know I live in Jogja, in Indonesia, everything. But the instruction is if about no, no, no. Does it mean that we unlearn? We try to unlearn our reactivity or forget, quote unquote, to forget us gradually to forget or to unlearn our reactivity. Is it correct?
Okay, this is a wonderful question. I am so happy you asked me such a intriguing question, and it is exactly what we have to know before coming to the continuity of the second section of the third chapter, which explain the wrong view. We have to, in Buddhism, the eightfold middle path is based on the right view and right thinking. Now, according to the Buddhist tradition, to get the right view of the non-existence of the self, of Pudgala, is not so difficult. We have wonderful examples, like there is no the self or a person is like a house. If you take it apart, the bricks and wood and tiles and so on. There is no house. House is only a concept. That is not easy to understand. According to Mahayana, which was the revolution in Buddhism, according to Mahayana, to understand the selflessness of all phenomena of the dharmas, you need much more subtle wisdom, much more subtle mind. It is much more difficult. It is a much greater challenge. And as we know, the sutras of the great wisdom and then systematized by Nagarjuna, they took this challenge to show that the real meaning of dependent origination, we believe in Buddhism, we believe in dependent origination. That's the essence, and that makes us different from other religions. So we are Buddhists because we believe in dependent origination. Now, dependent origination, as you know, has many different interpretations. And the early interpretation of dependent origination is based on the objects of wisdom. They are called jnata parinya, gyata parinya. You have to know the objects of wisdom to understand that the self is only a concept. Just like a chariot is only a concept when you take it apart, wheels and so on, there is no more chariot. So when you take the self apart in 5 aggregates and 18 dhatus, 18 elements, you will not find anything that is base for understanding of a self as something which has the own self-existing essence. In Indian philosophy, self is defined, Atman, as self-existing essence. But this cannot be the self-existing essence because when you analyze it, there is nothing self-existing. Okay. Then Nagarjuna and the sutras of the great wisdom, they came with a much more subtle analysis. Buddha has indeed taught, find yourself, find your true self. Now, the self is dependent on the 5 aggregates, and the 5 aggregates are also dependent on the self. So without the self, there are no 5 aggregates. Without the 5 aggregates, there is not self. So to understand the non-self of a person is much easier. To understand the non-self of things is much more difficult because everything is only exists in relation. Nirvana exists only in relation to samsara. Without the nirvana, samsara has no meaning. Without samsara, nirvana has no meaning. Good exists only in relation to bad. Bad exists only in relation to good. And so existence exists only in relation to non-existence. But according to the early Abhidharma, these objects of wisdom, nama, rupa, the form and the mentality, they exist. But the mind cannot be separate from mentality. Mentality cannot be separate from mind. existence cannot be separate from non-existent. This is a challenge, very difficult to understand. So the Mahayana, or Mahayana means non-dualistic teaching, is not that uh, things exist or things do not exist, or that there is the form and there is the mind. All these are only skillful means. Hmm? And the real reality, which is non-dualistic, they call suchness or dharmakaya. It is beyond the difference of empty or non-empty. In the Theravada tradition, when you read the Majjhima Nikaya, Chula, Sunyata Sutta, and so on, the emptiness is denial of existence. And existence, again, is something which is not empty. But according to the non-dualistic idea, the all differentiations that the Buddha is using to explain the Dharma, they are only skillful means to come to the ultimate reality, which is one. However you call it, suchness, dharmakaya, the things as they really are, the dharmata, the Buddha nature, or whatever, one mind, many, many names for that. But ultimate reality, you will find this idea even in Theravada. Ultimate reality is one. There is no second. So ultimate reality is something which is always there. Nirvana is always there. But it cannot be understood in opposition to samsara, which is not always there. The Nirvana has no beginning, samsara has also no beginning. But when we believe in a dependent origination, the ignorance, which is the cause of samsara, it has no beginning, but it can have the end. Otherwise, what is the use of practicing? So, the true reality is not the self, is not the non-self, it's not existence, it's not the non-existence. It is what in Chinese is called miao yo. It is a wonderful existence which cannot be understood as existence and as non-existent. It is very wonderful. It is very wonderful when you understand it, but it is not at all wonderful when we don't understand it. Because how can it be wonderful? Because if we don't understand it, then it, as just as a wise Agus has pointed out, it denies everything. But it denies everything to affirm not the emptiness as opposed to non-emptiness, not as existence as opposed to non-existent, but to affirm something which is beyond our limited thinking. Whenever there is an object to differentiate, the mind is then stuck with that object. But the nature of the mind is not being stuck with the object. The objects are always moving, which makes the mind move. But the true mind in the early Buddhism, the nirvana is never identified with mind. It is not there. this then the situation changes in the non-dualistic philosophy. In Madhyamika, there is just the wonderful existence, Miao-yo. But this Miao-yo in Yogacara, it has the substance, and this substance is the emptiness of the mind, the suchness of the mind. Hmm? Outwardly, these two views seem to be contradictory, but actually they are not. Because even in the Yogacara, as Master Yin Shun has pointed out, there are 16 different views. And the view of like Anhui, the Stiramati, is he wrote a commentary to Nagarjuna's verses of the Middle Way, and they the understanding the emptiness of the mind as substance, as we find in this treatise that we are learning now, is not contradictory to Nagarjuna's view that emptiness is form, form is emptiness, four aggregates are emptiness, everything is emptiness, and emptiness you cannot reach because the empty nature of the mind you cannot reach. Yet it is the ultimate reality. And this ultimate reality should become the something which we become familiar with. Therefore, the method of meditation is changing. It does not mean that meditating on the breath, meditating on the elements, meditating on love, compassion, joy, equanimity uh, is something which is against the meditation on the substance of mind which is empty and which cannot be grasped. They are reconciliatory. They are reconciliatory. We will come to it by putting shamatha and vipassana together. Shamatha and vipassana, as you have read the continuity of this treatise and studied, we can only understand together. We separate them as the Theravada does and the Abhidharma does in order never to separate them. According to early Buddhism, they become one only when the object is nirvana. Hmm? When we become a Sotapanna, and it is not so difficult if you have a good teacher, then once you have realized nirvana as an object by deep vipassana, meditating that the phenomena of our experience actually do not arise, only pass away with incredible speed. One has to come to this vipassana samadhi, which opens us to the uh, nirvana gate, which is objectless, which is cannot be connected with desire, and which is empty of any self. In the early Buddhism, the opening for this nirvana is deep vipassana, vipassana samadhi. I have practiced in this way. This is the PAOK method, which is the best thing the Theravada has produced. You train first in the jhanas, as explained in Vimuttimagga, Visuddhimagga, and then on the base of the jhanas, you can then get Vipassana Samadhi, because your mind is very stable, which enables you not only to see arising and passing away, but to see that actually arising is not true. This is not easy to realize, but it is a base for understanding of Abhidharma Kosha. Abhidharma Kosha says that things arise due to causes and conditions, but cease naturally. Cease naturally where? In the mind. So the Sanskrit tradition is different from Theravada. The cessation does not need any causes and conditions. Cessation is the natural state of mind. This is what the non-dualistic tradition develops. Now, any effective meditation has to start with a right view, if it is Buddhist, with a right view and right thinking. But the right view of the early Buddhism and right view of the non-dualistic tradition is different. In a non-dualistic tradition, the right view of the early Buddhism is the relative view. And the relative view is the base for the highest view, which is beyond comparison, beyond reaching. But unless you have a correct relative view, this is what the Buddhism is teaching, even Theravada teaches that. First, you have to understand your worldly experience to understand that which is beyond. But the worldly experience from the point of view of non-dualistic tradition is not any existence or not any non-existence. This is what Nagarjuna shows. Even in worldly experience, nothing can stand, because everything we realize in the world is a process, right? So even in from the perspective of the worldly view, from the perspective of Vipassana, which analyzes the impermanence, the impermanence is true only in the conventional reality, not in the highest reality. And it is precisely this conventional reality, as the Mahayana scriptures explain, which hides from us the highest view, in which no reality whatsoever can be grasped. And that is the ultimate view. So are we getting some clarity?
Yes, Pastor, thank you very much.
So this is very important. I'm very thankful you asked me this question, because now we are coming to the part of the scripture defining the wrong view regarding first the 5 views regarding the wrong view of the existence of some self, and then the wrong view defining the existence of anything. So from the highest point of view, it should be very clearly understood there is no real emptiness, there is no real non-emptiness, there is no real existence, there is no real non-existence. So after taking so much care that we understand suchness, the previous part of the text explain how to understand suchness from the view of continuity, how to understand the suchness from the view of non-continuity, how to understand the practice of the sudden enlightenment, how to understand the practice of gradual enlightenment, how to be able to put them together as not being contradictory. And now the wrong view. And the text explained the five wrong views. The first two are concerned with the wrong view regarding the shunyata, the emptiness, and the other three uh, wrong views, which are, the text says, are concerned with the putujana, with the fangfu, with a non-enlightened person. That if you become enlightened, even in the Theravada, in the sense you have entered the stream to nirvana, you don't have these views. You don't have these non-understandings. Why? Even by practicing the Vipassana, you, when you have the realization of the ultimate reality, call it nirvana, as opposed to samsara, then this samsaric existence becomes, as exactly as the Mahayana sutras always emphasize, like a dream, like an echo, like a second moon, and so on. Many, many, many examples. How to understand our worldly experience. This is precise. This you find also in Theravada. This is nothing new. Nagarjuna is using Sutta Nipata, which is Theravada scripture, early scripture, to show that only when you understand the world as being empty, you can escape the clutches of Mara, the clutches of death. No, this is in Sutta Nipata, not any Mahayana. We are always in the clutches of death as long as we don't penetrate that the nature of our existence should not be object of grasping. When it is object of grasping, we are, so to say, in a state of delusion. And this same in Theravada, same in Mahayana, this should be object of the mindfulness. When we grasp for something, we should be mindful that we are not aware. When we don't grasp, then awareness has function on the base of mindfulness. If we grasp, then the awareness has no function. If the awareness has no function, even according to Theravada, then no discipline. The discipline, the samvara of the six senses of the body, speech, and mind is the base for mindfulness. If we don't have samvara, if we don't have discipline, even according to Theravada, then the mindfulness, the memory of the true state of things, is, so to say, leaving us. So we are bound to get sooner or later into trouble. If we have experience in meditation, we should it should be sooner. When we don't have experience in meditation, it may last infinite time. For many of us, it lasts infinite time. So our grudges and our the tendencies to hate and to grasp become our true nature. When we have some realization, we see that they are not our true nature, they are only our dreams. It's all right. Uh, they are, when we have true understanding, then we can get rid of wrong views. Then we can meditate correctly. So the wrong view here is uh, uh, concerned with the evil grasping. Because we have evil grasping, we have wrong view. If we don't have evil grasping, 谢知, we cannot meditate properly, we cannot understand what has been explained about the suchness. So we have to, first of all, get rid of wrong view. And the most important wrong views for a Buddhist is in regard to emptiness and in regard to existence. These are the most important objects of wrong views, due to which we are deeply immersed in a samsaric existence. So the first wrong view is concerned with, let me read the text. The sutra explained that Tathagata Dharmakaya is ultimately appeased, kimo, like empty space. This is what the sutras say. I think this is quotation from Lankavatara. So what does it mean? This someone who has this view, he does not understand the suchness, which was the object of all this explanation in the previous part of this third chapter. The emptiness exists only in relation to non-emptiness, and non-emptiness exists only in relation to emptiness. They have to be understood always together. This original enlightenment, which is a gate to the true nature of the mind, is both empty and non-empty, has a both aspect of emptiness and the aspect of non-emptiness, because the virtues do not belong to individual. The virtues all belong to the highest reality. If the virtues really belong to an individual and we grasp to them as something which really exists, then this is not a Buddhist view. So this person does not understand that purpose is to counter clinging to the view of permanence. Somebody who has such a view, it means that he clings to the idea of highest reality being like an empty space, because he is clinging to the nihilistic view. A nihilistic view is only the in opposition to the view of eternal. there cannot be nihilistic view without relation to eternalistic view. There cannot be eternalistic view without opposition to the impermanence view, or to nihilistic view, that nothing except impermanence exists. So he believes that the ultimate reality, the suchness, is identical with the space. So space for him really exists, and the uh, highest reality is like the space. But this how to counter this view? It is countered by explaining that the space has no real characteristics. The definition of space uh, in Abhidharma is that which brings limit to the form. We cannot grasp any form without the background of the space. So, but the space has no real characteristics, just like for someone who understands the suchness, just like the form and the non-form, mind and form, also has not any real characteristics which stands by itself. The space is a name, but when you want to analyze it's on the base of real characteristics. In Abhidharma, everything has to be characterized by real characteristics. You cannot really get hold of it. Nobody can get hold of it or the space. And definitions that it is the limit of the form, it is not a satisfying definition, because it has not cause. That which has not a cause cannot have any effect, and that which has no cause and no effect, that arises neither from cause nor non-effect. That is, as the Sarvastivada, as Abhidharma Kosha teaches, that is like nirvana. It is non-created. And the non-created is it cannot be grasped and cannot have own characteristic based on something. So when you take object from the mind, when you take form away from the mind, then what remains is what is called in this tradition is a true mind. We have learned, and that is very important to understand. The true mind is that which does not change and which is omnipresent, and which is related to Dharmakaya, to the Dharmata, to the real state of the things as they really are. So, because Buddha has realized it, so he has omniscience. It does not mean that he can differentiate all dharmas one by one. It means that he is identical with the true existence, and it is his omniscience. Omniscience in all aspects, because he has no individuality, which is based on habits. So, because he has no individuality based on habits, he is omniscient. He becomes one with the body of the Dharma, which is not like the space. That would be nihilism, but it is alive. Our mind is very much alive and the background to all life and to all energies. So the very thought of real space arises, according to the commentary, from the idea of real objects. Because we believe in real objects, we have the idea of the real space. But precisely this idea is the ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of the true nature of all the phenomena, which is beyond grasping in the non-dualistic tradition. So the mind moves because it has an object. When it has no object, nobody can catch its movement. And that mind whose movement no one can catch, that is a real mind, which is the entry to the awareness of the real state of things in the non-dualistic philosophy, which is ungraspable, aprapya. Wusota ku bodhisattva yi pore polomito ku. Because a bodhisattva relies on non-attaining, non-grasping. So he can attain always paradoxes, same like in for all deep mystics. This ungraspable you can only explain in paradoxes. And the true reality is ungraspable and can be only explained in paradoxes, because nothing can be grasped, so nothing can be attained. The bodhisattva attained the highest. If we grasp, we cannot attain the highest. Now, when we grasp what? We grasp the objects of the mind and the mind which grasp the objects. There is nothing else to grasp. When we don't grasp, this was explained in the all many skillful means explained in the previous part of the treatise. When you don't grasp, so you get a window to the true reality, which is in this tradition the true mind, the Jen Shin. This true mind does not move. It moves because of its connection with the objects. When we, as we will learn later in the later part, explaining the practice of the paramis, when the mind moves, it is vipassana. What is vipassana? Understanding that the true does not move. And what is shamatha? Understanding that the precisely that the true does not move. So the shamatha and vipassana should be together. When we have vipassana, we let the mind arise. If we suppress the arising of the mind, it is ignorance, precisely like holding to the mind. Holding to the non-arising of the mind is also expression of ignorance, when we do it by force. That's why we have learned that the characteristic of the original enlightenment is the wisdom of purity and unthinkable activity, unthinkable karma. When the mind does not grasp, its activity becomes unthinkable. When mind is grasping, only then its activity becomes graspable, becomes object of differentiating mind. What we grasp is not the non-differentiating mind. What we grasp is a differentiating mind. Differentiating mind is not an obstacle when we do not grasp it. It becomes an obstacle when we grasp it. So when one grasps emptiness as the Buddha nature, or the true nature of the phenomena as being like an empty space, that means he is grasping also to the true objects, and this does not make any sense. So without the idea of true objects, there cannot arise the idea of a true space. And without the idea of the true space cannot arise the idea of a true object. It is impossible, because objects can only appear in space, and the space has no characteristics. But it has a name, and we can experience it. And this same is for our reality. It has name, we can experience it, but we cannot grasp it, just like a space. So this is the first view. Now the second view also belongs to the misunderstanding of emptiness. That is the nihilistic view. The emptiness, all is ultimately empty, and empty means without any object, without any arising. Simply all phenomena do not exist. This is the second view. Let us read the text. One hears that the substance of all phenomena, the substance, very important, the body of all the phenomena, the reality of all the phenomena is ultimately empty. Even nirvana, suchness, and everything, whatever, is ultimately empty, without any xiang, without any object, without any attributes. Uh, so all objects ultimately do not exist. So in other words, very simple, the view is that all that is created and all that is not created has is empty of all characteristics, of all attributes, and this emptiness really exists. This is simply nihilism. So what is the problem here? This whoever it is imagines that this emptiness is self-existent. But the emptiness in the Mahayana scriptures and philosophy is precisely the denial of self-existence. Without the denial of self-existence, emptiness has no meaning. Hmm? Uh, Believing in self-existence, emptiness as self-existence is something true. Nagarjuna says in the verses of the middle way, the emptiness is the medicine for all views. One who has the view of emptiness is incurable. His sickness is incurable. So this is a case of a person who believes for some reason or other that emptiness is something self-existent, that is his view, and nothing really exists, and that is the ultimate reality. So he has not understood the function of emptiness, which is to counter attachment. The emptiness is to counter attachment. The emptiness originally means zero. Shunya. Zero is a great invention of India. One of the great inventions of India is zero. And based on this invention is also based the Buddhist non-dualistic philosophy. It comes approximately from the same time. So zero is there for sure, and zero is a base for all great mathematical calculations, for artificial intelligence now, for computers, and for all this, without the understanding how to make a complicated mathematical calculations. uh, all these things would be unthinkable. Hmm? So the zero exists, uh, and it has a very important function, but you cannot grasp it. Similarly, this emptiness, which is literally zero, also exists, but it has it is a most useful concept, but it is only a concept. When you grasp at that concept, that means we have not understood emptiness. So nirvana has, according to this person, has the uh, own nature of emptiness. That means it is a negation of existence. As simple as that. So, of course, the only possible way is to understand that emptiness is uh, only denial of true existence as something we can grasp, and the uh, dharmakaya, or suchness, which is a synonym of emptiness, is not empty of essence. Its essence precisely is uh, its uh, nature, its non-emptiness, because it is the completion of all the virtues. When one does not grasp, all the virtues can be realized. If one is grasping, one can have virtues, but they will not be realized. Hmm? The true virtues can only be realized. This is the Mahayana philosophy, Mahayana ethics. True virtues can only be realized on the background of the non-self. The true virtues belong to the ultimate reality. And true person and ultimate reality, they don't go together. So, according to the tradition, this Yogacara belongs to the uh, third turning of the wheel of Dharma. First was the Four Noble Truths, second was the uh, uh, denial of something as truly self existent, and the third is necessary according to this tradition to avoid the Uchedavada, to avoid the misunderstanding of suchness as uh, nihilism, and precisely because this emptiness is full of virtues, so it uh, it is not empty of essence. Its very essence are the virtues of the ultimate principle, which is ungraspable. This is not easy to understand. That's why we have started this. Understanding the selflessness of phenomena is much more subtle, much more difficult to correctly allow, correctly uh, penetrate. That's why we are all, from the point of view of penetration of ultimate reality, we are all fanfu, we are oputujana, we are all commoners. Even Master Shen the, His Holiness Dalai Lama, and I met also some of the other great teachers, Tibetan and Chinese. They all claim to be commoners because to understand, understand mean literally understand, to be always connected with the penetration of suchness as being beyond existence and non-existent, beyond empty and non-empty, is much more difficult. So we are still bodhisattvas not by realization. We are bodhisattvas by faith and by determination. So this third turning of the wheel of the Dharma to show the purity of mind as being the ultimate reality. This purity is due to the ultimate emptiness. And that is not empty of essence. So it cannot be interpreted in terms of nihilism. So not mere denial, but also affirmation is very, very essential. So this is the denial of the second misunderstanding. Now, the other three denials are concerned with the correct understanding of existence, as being, of course, uh, meaningful only in relation to non existence. Otherwise, existence as such has no meaning, self existent meaning from the point of view of the dependent origination. Nothing can truly exist in terms of dependent origination. Whatever exists can either arise by itself or arise from the other, or neither from itself nor from the other, or uh, both from itself or from the other. No alternative is possible in terms of uh, causes and conditions. So what the non-dualistic philosophy does is denial of the ability of our limited thinking to understand the ultimate reality, and emphasis on direct insight. So Sutra says, the third concerning the wrong view, Sutra says that this Tathagata Garbha, the Buddha nature, the matrix of Tathagata, is the very essence of all virtues, to which nothing can be either added or nothing can be taken from it. So, in case of Buddha, nothing can be added to it. In case of the ordinary man like ourselves, nothing can be added to it. In case of a Buddha, and also same, nothing can be added to it, nothing can be taken away from it. And so Tathagata Garbha, the true nature of reality, exists as a substance. So so because it exists as a substance, so it exists just like Abhidharma explains, it exists in terms of the true characteristics, just like Nama Rupa, just like the form and the mentality also exists on the base of true characteristics. So this highest reality, the suchness, becomes a real object. So just like the form and mentality becomes a true object we can grasp with our deluded senses, as the self-existent nature, same like the form and mind. It is just there. So the so-called naive realistic view, nirvana is there, just like the form is there, just like the mind is there. All these things, they truly exist. They can be defined and they can be realized as something true existent. So this suchness from Paramartha, from the high point of view of higher, the reality has substance, has essence, but it has absolutely no essence from the point of view of a samsaric experience. But because it has essence which is ungraspable by senses, therefore it has all virtues from the point of view of samsaric perspective, from the point of view of differentiation. So all virtues in terms of differentiation, they don't belong to something that can be grasped, but they belong to something which has essence and which cannot be grasped. So, in other words, all virtues are suchness, and in suchness, there is no true differentiation. So, from the point of view of suchness, as we have already explained, the essence, the attributes, and the use, they are one reality. They cannot be separated. Only from the point of view of our limited perspective, it does not make sense. So the true reality can only be seen in the light of wisdom. And in the light of wisdom, we only can understand the real purity and also the real purity in regards to impurity, which is connected with ignorance. And in this tradition, ignorance arises with holding to the objects of the mind and the mind which grasp at the object and which does not understand that that even in the attributes of the suchness there are no real differences to be grasped. So this is the second very important misunderstanding to take. Before we had taking the emptiness as something real. Here we have the cases of taking the uh, existence as something real. Now the fourth wrong view, they hear sutra that all samsaric defiled phenomena exist based on the suchness, on the Tathagata Garbha, which is suchness in us beings hidden by our ignorance. And also, all these defiled phenomena that we experience in the world, they believe, this person believes, whoever has this view, that also they cannot leave suchness. So, suchness is also connected and inseparable not only from the pure but also from the impure. The impure exists in suchness. This is a view. So, in a true existence, which is true purity, there is also impurity. So, they believe that this self nature of the true reality, which in us ignorant beings is called the Buddha nature, contains all samsaric phenomena. All our ignorance is contained also in Tathagata Garbha, and he has a real place in Tathagata Garbha because Tathagata Garbha is a substance. So the immeasurable defiled phenomena which we experience in daily life, to which we have likings and dislikings and graspings and all kinds of deluded ideas. They also contained in suchness as something truly existent. So here it has to be explained, and it was explained also in the previous sections, that this suchness in the true nature of the beings, the true nature of the mind, uh, cannot contain any real illusionary dharmas. All real dharmas, all real phenomena are only illusionary phenomena when we grasp at them. When we don't grasp at them, they of course exist, but only in the relative reality. And the relative reality is precisely what hides the true nature of reality, which is in this tradition ungraspable, unreachable. So, if the true nature, which is in this tradition, true nature of the mind, contains uh, all the contaminated worldly dharmas to which we grasp, hold, which we like, which we dislike, then this suchness, of course, can never be realized. It is absolute nonsense. So, the if the suchness contains contaminated dharmas, then the suchness can never be realized. Precisely, the suchness can be realized because it is pure. It has a pure essence, which is the true emptiness. True emptiness means it is reality which has own self-existent nature in this tradition. Self-existent nature means it exists as ungraspable, unthinkable, and being ungraspable and unthinkable, it is the base for everything that is graspable, that is thinkable. So these were the three views. This was the two views concerning existence, which are connected with the in a way with a Buddhist misunderstanding. According to the explanation, the fifth misunderstanding doesn't should not belong to a Buddhist, because the Buddhist cannot believe there is a true beginning in time, and that the beings have the true beginning. He cannot believe it because this is of course a Hindu view, based on misunderstanding of the what the Buddhist scriptures teach. Srimala Devi Sutta and so on teaches that the Buddha nature, the true reality, uh, transmigrates in the six spheres of existence, among the divine beings, among humans, among animals, among denizens of hell, among hungry spirits. It transmigrates there, yet it is not affected by impurity. So, in I myself, having lived a long time in India, this is true when you read like Mahabharata. It is the view of nirvana. Nirvana is uh, explained as being the Purusha or as being the Atma, realization of Purusha, realization of Atma, realization of the true soul is the realization of the Nirvana, according to Hindu scriptures. And this is based on the idea, which is also very familiar with us in the West, that the time has a beginning. And because it has a beginning, it must have also an end. And when it has the end, then again it will have another new beginning. So the body is compared to the uh, old clothes. This old clothes, when it becomes torn, then it is rejected, and then one is reborn again with a new clothes, with a new body. So the samsara means the real beings which have the real beginning in time, be it God or some principle which does not change. They come again and again because there is true beginning. The nirvana is the true end, and after the true end, the beginning is again a new true beginning. So the principle, like the Vishnu and so on, comes again. The Buddha is supposed to be also the avatar, the incarnation of the Vishnu, of the highest God. And he comes again and again in different forms, which, according to the situation, then keep on saving the beings and brings them to the uh, uh, to the purity of existence, which is nirvana. So this is very important for understanding Buddhism. This highest reality in beings, which in this tradition is the Buddha nature, has no beginning, and since it has no beginning, it cannot have also the true end. Similarly, it has no beginning like the ignorance, which causes us to be reborn in the different states of existence, not only from life to life, but even now in our life, we arise in states of happiness, we arise in states of worry, we arise in state of depression, and we arrive in state of exhilaration. And that which arises in these all different states, it has a true beginning, but this and that which has a true beginning must have also true end. So the savior will come. This is also in Western religion. The savior will come and they return us, uh, beings who have gone astray, into the uh, state of uh, purity, into nirvana. but the suchness has no beginning and no end, but the cause of samsari existence has no beginning, but it definitely has an end. Hmm? So there are no, in other words, they are the the nirvana is the true nature of the mind of the beings, has no beginning or end, and the ignorance, which is the cause of our suffering, has no beginning, but it definitely has an end. Otherwise, no way of getting out of the endless circles of existence. Hmm? So, uh, so there is no end to the nirvana of the Buddha. And this nirvana of the Buddha is actually the true nature of the mind of beings, at least in this tradition. So, if one imagines, if one is a Buddhist and imagines a true being beside the uh, triple sphere of existence, existence based on the karma, on desire, existence based of subtle form or non-forms, if one imagines such a being existing apart from these three spheres of samsara, then one cannot be a Buddhist. So these are the wrong views and uh, concerning the idea of the true self. As we have explained, the idea of true self is easier to penetrate, but the uh, idea of no self in all things, being the true nature of our experience, that there is nothing we can grasp, even in our worldly experience, and that this is a true reality which we are experiencing actually, but do not see due to our ignorance. This is much more difficult. So it needs a different training, different kind of mindfulness, and different kinds of awareness, namely the awareness that we are never separated from the what in this tradition we have seen, like in the Nirvana, Mahayana Nirvana Sutra, is called the true self. The true self is Paramatma, which does not, which is precisely the non-self. This is a mind which has no limitation and by its wisdom penetrates everywhere. So, as we have learned, the true suchness is the jnana kaya, the body of the wisdom. And this body of the wisdom is what is to be realized. It penetrates everywhere, has no obstacles, and is not subjected to all the defilements and is always with us. Yet due to our ignorance, our awareness is not awareness of this true self, but awareness of that which moves the mind. But that which moves the mind moves not the real mind, but the real mind and the moving mind, they cannot be separated. And that is very difficult to realize. Okay, so let us finish here. Then we will analyze the concept much more difficult to penetrate, the selflessness of all the phenomena, and what it means in terms of the progression in our practice.
Dhamadipa,
Yeah,
do you have time for a quick question, or should I save it for next time?
this is Lars, no?
Yes, this
Yeah,
is Lars.
wonderful. How have you been? Okay?
Oh yeah, I caught the cold,
Okay.
but it doesn't matter. It's passing. So yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Why don't you give me a call and we can discuss? We are old friends, huh? So
Okay.
doing it just now with the quick question, let us have time. Huh? You cannot immediately solve it. No, it's very difficult. But what is the question? Out of curiosity, then we will discuss it later.
So you have said many times, as I understand it, that this samsaric experience has no beginning, but that it can have an end. Obviously, otherwise
Yes,
Buddhism makes no sense. But yet you also say that that which has no beginning cannot have an end. And that seems to be
yes.
contradictory statements.
No, it is not contradictory statement because that which has no beginning cannot be reached. And that which cannot be reached, how can it have an end? No? The true nature of the mind cannot be reached by differentiation.
Yes, but also
It
you
is,
say ignorance has no beginning, but that ignorance can have an end.
yes, sure. The opposite of ignorance is the wisdom. And the wisdom has no beginning and no end. The true wisdom is the wisdom of that which cannot be grasped by our limited uh, differentiating mind. So this is the philosophy of non-dualism, of direct realization. We cannot grasp that which is ungraspable with the mind which holds to differentiation. We can only grasp it with a mind which is freed from holding to differentiation. It does not mean that these differentiation uh, are not important. They are very, very important, but they cannot grasp that which is beyond differentiation. Okay?
Yeah, there is something I'm not seeing there, but we can talk about it on a later occasion. No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Please think about it. This is very important. It's good you uh, put it in mind, and most important is to put it in practice. What we are holding is to our limited mind. We cannot hold to the unlimited mind. And in this tradition, the true nature of the mind is not limited. And this is not so foreign to even to Western philosophy. This is what Socrates also says. But let us finish this here. Okay. Now we transfer merit to all beings so that we all, it is true wisdom penetrates all kinds of existence as we have learned. So we should practice the transference of merit. 愿以自贡的菩提解，我等一众生 Yekum Cheng Foda. May the merits of this Dharma spread to all beings so that we all attain the state of perfect realization. Omitoba. Okay,
Thank you, Pastor.
dear friends.
Muito obrigada, Dhammajipa.
Thank you, Pastor.
Muito obrigado. See you next